Oh, I love it. All right. So we are at 3:04, and maybe we'll take one more minute and then we're going to go around the Zoom and we're going to introduce ourselves very briefly because we have a lot to talk about today. Does that sound fair?
Yep.
This is gonna, everyone that's joining in, I implore you to ask questions, ask questions, ask questions. You have four very candid, exceptional design professionals on this Zoom, and this is the place to do it. Utilize the chat, utilize the Q&A. I have mastered looking in multiple places at one time, so I will try to capture all your questions and comments. And it is officially, it's still 3:04. I said 3:05. I would like to be a woman of my word.
There we go, 3:05,
3:05, go, go.
And,
all right,
and,
we're gonna kick it. Go ahead, Ron, come on.
Just to say, a lot of times, because there's going to be a lot of people on this call, and I know everyone's questions are not going to be answered, but I am prepared to, if people have questions of me, you can email me and I will answer your questions.
Oh, see, that's what I like, Ron. That's what I like right there. And because of that, Ron, we are going to have you introduce yourself first.
Okay, I am Ron Woodson from Woodson and Rummerfield's House of Design. The other half of my business partner is below me. I don't know where that is in the frame of things. And also co-founder of SIA, which stands for Save Iconic Architecture, which is a nonprofit architectural preservation foundation. And also a member of the DLF, which is the Design Leadership Foundation, which is a foundation to bring diversity and inclusion to the design field of where we're lacking. And
I love it.
We're trying to do everything we can to right some of these wrongs. So
I love it. I love it.
And I've been, because I know this question will come up, I've been a designer for over 25 years. So I'm the old man of the group.
But we're just gonna let you have that. We're gonna let you have that. All right, we're gonna hand it off to Sequoia. Sequoia, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sequoia Hunter Suje. Well, Kia is my colleague at Determined by Design, and I am a design advocate and work in mostly affordable housing. I'm also an adjunct professor at Drexel University and have been so for several years now. I'm originally from the east end of Long Island, the Shinnecock Indian Reservation, and I'm super excited to talk about mentorship today because it's something I'm very passionate about.
Love it. I love it. All right, Jamie, it's on you. Introduce yourself.
Hi, guys. I am Jamie Rummerfield, Ron Woodson's other half or work wife, if you will call me that. And we've been business partners for almost 20 years, 2 decades. And we are based in Los Angeles, and I believe in mentorship as well. I had some great mentors, and in the world of interior design, it makes all the difference. And I'd love to speak with anyone who had questions beyond this call. I'll put Ron's email. If you don't want to talk to Ron, you can talk to me. But we'll put both of our emails in the chat here. And please, let's continue the dialogue, because this is for the long haul, and you have to put in the work and time. And the field of design and architecture has so much growth ahead, and we are at a great starting point here. So happy to be here.
Fantastic. I'm Kia Weatherspoon. I am going to be leading this dialogue. I am the president and founder of Determined by Design, but most importantly, I am the Chief Development Officer for the Black Interior Designers Network. That is a very new and exciting role for me. So I'm excited to engage in this dialogue. I already see a question in the Q&A that we will definitely get to, Jessica, directly, but this is going to be a conversation. So please use the chat, use the Q&A, and we're gonna jump right in. And I want to start out with Jamie. Can you kind of, and I want to give this question to Jamie and Sequoia. Why is mentorship important?
Well, you know, I believe that your influences in life really change the shape of your character. And in a creative field, having someone who has a skill set that they can hand off to you, it makes such a difference. You know, school is one thing, which is also hard to get to sometimes, but advocated. But mentorship, it's something that I believe just helps bring that confidence and understanding to the street smarts almost of a profession. And that's priceless.
Sequoia, what about you?
You know, mentorship is so important because in order for dreams to be made into reality, it requires a lot of people. It requires a lot of help. And this, we are really moving away from this sort of bootstrap myth, because it is in fact a myth. Nobody sort of like comes out of nowhere and does it single-handedly. And so mentorship is important for that growth on every level, that you need someone to advocate for you, and you need someone to help guide you or just meet you where you are, and to help give you some tools and encouragement.
I love that. So the $1 million question, and Ron, I'm going to kick this one off to you. Did you have a mentor? And if so, how did you find them?
Okay, I had several, but I'm not going to make my story the whole hour. But my first mentors were my family, my mother, father, and I had an aunt, 2 aunts and an uncle. I come from a creative family, a very entrepreneurial family. And so they had really high standards for me. And so it was just a given that I was gonna go in the direction that I ultimately have gone in, no matter what industry I was in. It was, I had that backing of family to say, you can do this, we got your back, no matter what happens. Now, outside of that, my first mentor was an economics professor that I had in college. And I didn't choose him, he chose me. And the way that it happened, and we're still friends to this day. He's an author and you know, this incredible traveler, and I love to travel. But I never will forget, I'll just give this one example. I came into class one day, and I was a good student, and he looked at me and he said, "Ron, after class, I'd like you to stay after. I want to talk to you after class." And I'm thinking, oh, what did I do? I'm getting good grades. Yeah, like, yeah, what have I done? And he asked me, he said, you know, what is your major? And at the time I wasn't quite sure. And I said, and I was 19. And I said, you know, I think I'm going to go into business. I'm not sure. And then he asked me, he said, well, do you work? Do you have a job? And at the time I was a box boy at Bond's Market. And he told me, he said, I have a friend that has a company and they need some help. And I think you would be perfect for what they need. And what it was a customs house broker, and they needed help in their accounting department. I go on the interview, and the interview went really well. They called me back for a second interview. I got the job. I ended up being there
Nice.
3 years. That started my career in corporate life. Cut forward 10, 15 years. I was in corporate life for 5, 6 years. And then I opened my own business.
Okay.
That's where the family came in that pushed me to have my own business. But I always remembered Mr. Arslan and how he was an advocate for me. And I reached out to him and I said, you know, I want to take you to lunch. I want to sit down and talk to you. And he said to me, we got together, and I asked him, I said, what did you see in me that you didn't see in your other students? Why did you pick me? And he said, all of the students who come through my classroom, he said, I can see it in their eyes, the ones that are going to do great things. And he said, and if I can help those in any way that I can, I'm going to do it. And that was how I started in corporate life.
Ron, I love that. I love that story.
Yeah.
I love how you ended it with a pretty bow. Like you put that bow on it.
Yes.
I'm gonna untie that bow because I didn't have any mentors.
Wow.
And I feel like it is hard as a young woman of color who is a little bit outspoken. It was very hard for me to find a mentor, and it was not without trying. It was not without being persistent and reaching out. I see Jessica saying same here. So I became, you know, the leader, the business owner, the firm of color that I wanted to see. And I think it's important to realize, what if in predominantly white institutional educational spaces, what if those is your story the exception, Ron, when it comes to someone seeing something in you? Which leads me to my next question is, what is the biggest obstacles young people face, right, when trying to find a mentor and also entering into this profession? And
Well,
I'm going to open that to anyone.
And I'm going to say this, and the reason I prefaced that I've been doing this for 25 years was for a reason, because 25 years ago, there wasn't another me in this industry. And at least there wasn't one of me who did it at the level at which I do it at. So Jamie and I do very high-end residential, commercial, and boutique hospitality design. And I think I told you this story, Kia. I was at a party and there was only one other Black male designer that I kind of knew of at the same time. And he and I met at a party. And we looked across the room and we had to make our way to one another. And the first thing he said to me was Roderick Shade. He said, "You're the other one." And we just laughed, and because that was the way that it was then. But again, because I had that backing, I never thought that there wasn't something I couldn't do because I was Black, or I was male, or I was in a white industry. Because I'm gonna tell you, every industry that I've been in has been predominantly white.
Okay.
And but at the same time, from very, very early on, I always said that if people come to me, especially people of color, come under me, I'm going to be right there front and center to help them. And I have. There are ones I can name, ones that still pick up the phone and call me. Corey Damon Jenkins, who is doing phenomenal things now, and would call me, and I became sort of this de facto mentor without putting a shingle out for it. But I'm welcoming in that because I had that, and I know how important that is. And it would be completely selfish and unfair of me not to be able to share the wisdom and experiences that I have had and gleaned.
That's fair.
This industry has been good to me, but I have seen and heard other stories of young Black designers who have had a rough go of it.
Fair.
And so I'm here to help wherever I can.
All right,
and not only I had two friends of Jamie and I's who are very established designers, Rafi and Josh, called me the other day to ask my opinion on something. So I think it's just incumbent upon.
Okay. So Sequoia, I see you.
You never forget.
Yeah. I'm like.
Go ahead, girls. I see you. I'm gonna tend to the chat. Chomp in there, and then Jamie, we're gonna go to you.
So I've had a combination of both. Like all of my design mentors were initially white. I did not go originally to school for design. And I had some really like troubling experience, especially when I got one of my first like big design jobs at an all-white firm. And the first time I went to the design center, and I didn't have business cards yet. And this is when I was living in DC, and they called the office to make sure that I actually worked for this particular firm. And
I've heard that one a lot, actually.
My old boss, my mentor, was she's French. She was so mortified and so embarrassed that I had to go through that incident. But this was a firm that I stayed with for like 7 years, and they really like gave me an opportunity as a art student, essentially, to do design work and to work on really exciting and like very high-end projects. When I went to graduate school for my Master's of Fine Arts in Interiors, that is when the networking, where I was looking at other women of color who were in higher positions, who were at like corporate firms, because I wanted to sort of get into more larger projects. The door was always like shut. There was no room at the table. And that like caused that was like really like pretty painful to not have that support and that sort of network, right? Because I come from a different sort of thinking where like there's always room, right? When you raise your voice, you need to make room for someone else to insert their own. So I think that one of the difficult things, there's multi things that are happening, but for young people, especially when they're entering the design world right now, is that they're going to be facing a lot of tokenism with both white firms and white educational institutions who are diversifying without providing cultural framework to nurture and support these young people. So they see no reflections in themselves. And so it's like, it's very, very important for people of color, for women of color, for Black men, Black women, Indigenous women, Latinx, and sort of white allies who are aware, right, to step up and make the time to do this sort of mentorship work, because these kids don't see themselves anywhere. So how are they going to understand that they can succeed?
So Elizabeth has a question here, which is prompting us to take a step back. And then I'm going to go to you with this one, Jamie. She goes, where do I start? Like how, and maybe we're skipping this step. Do you have a mentor? How do you find, Jamie, where should they start to look for a mentor? Now, outside of this Zoom where you now have 4 people, who you can email, and they're going to all share their emails. Jamie, where can someone start to find a mentor, especially in today's climate?
You know, if you're a design student, that's one place. And a lot of people aren't even in design school yet. And so for me, I didn't have a mentor until I was in school with like-minded people. And my experience, speaking, you know, just directly from my design journey, I had a professor that would at least listen to me after school. And when you're we're all intimidated by design school. It's not easy. And so you're not alone, number one. Number two, I think finding an art teacher, it depends, again, whatever age you are in your creative journey, it's finding a like-minded person. And that could be an aunt or an uncle who is creative, or a friend's parent. I think finding someone who shares your passion is a good place to start. Even if you read a magazine and reach out to someone of work that they like, we get a lot of calls and a lot of people who reach out to us who are in school, and we'll talk to them. And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Even on my own journey, my first mentor was a teacher who just listened, and I was able to talk to him in a very intimidating program, and you get through it. I just want, you know, people to know you're not alone, and these are really good questions. And I think that is a big concern, is where to start. And having just even one friend or person who are in the arts is a great place. Even go to a museum, striking up a conversation with someone who shares your passion. It's amazing what kind of comes out of those conversations.
Can I add to that? Can I add to that, Kia?
Mm-hmm.
And it was perfect the way Jamie said that. But I think in the difference between today and I'll say 15 years ago, even, we have what's called social media now. And you can go on, and if you put in, like, I love going in and looking at all of the Black designers that are just popping up everywhere now. I didn't see that before. That just was not the norm. And there's a lot of young people who are doing some great things, but you can go on to Instagram and you can DM somebody who you see as is doing what you want to do in whatever field it is. And there are so many now that I know that would take these kids, these young people's requests. You know, Michelle Boyd and I have talked about situations like this where people reach out to him. And I remember when Michelle was starting out, and we became very close just like that. And Aaliyah, who works for us, that's how she came to us. She DM'd me on Instagram. And sometimes, because I'm like an old codger sometimes on social media, sometimes I don't want to be bothered with it. So sometimes I don't see them like right when they come up. But once I do, I answer every single one. So
we don't use our rotary phone anymore.
That's all right. So
you reminded me about social media. Thank you, Ron. Yeah, I was talking about going to the museum. So thanks.
So we have 3 direct questions in the chat, but I also want to answer this. Where do you start, right? So I think social media is a great tool. I also think LinkedIn is an underutilized tool. So I have a lot of great, and we keep saying these young people, but I know a lot of second careerists like Dr. Lisa Moon, right? Who we also need to focus this conversation of, if you're transitioning career and ageism and all the things that can exist, how do we make space for them? I think what I am notorious for on a DM on Instagram is sending the 1 minute audio. A 1 minute audio DM, it humanizes you. It lets them hear your voice, your authenticity. Think about doing that. Also utilize LinkedIn. When people reach out to me, I say, well, have you checked my LinkedIn? Who do I know that you want to know so I can make those formal introductions right off the bat? So it requires a little research on your end. I always say, identify 5 firms in 3 cities that those are the ones you really, really want to do. Don't cast a wide net, but that's how you start. And when you email Ron or Jamie or Sequoia, be specific in why you're reaching out to them.
Right.
And not just, I'm looking for a job, and that might be it, but tell us a little bit something about yourself so we can help. We have an anonymous attendee who asked, what advice do you give a recent graduate searching for the right job, but they cannot seem to find one?
I have a
Ooh.
lot of students who are in that position right now.
Sequoia, what's your response to them?
So my response is always, you literally can learn something from anyone. You just have to be open to it. So finding the right job, what does that really mean? Can you learn something? Is there something you can take away? Probably. There's probably whether you're like, oh, I'm just doing tenant fit outs, right? All of a sudden you realize, wow, I'm an excellent space planner now. I hated doing this job, but like, this is what I've learned. It's not always going to be like a Cinderella, you got the glass slipper like slipped onto your foot and it's going to be wonderful. As a young person who's graduating, you are going to be in a cycle. You will work at a firm for 3 years. You'll probably like have that 3-year bug. You'll probably start to look somewhere else. You'll stay at that next place. Maybe you bounce around for a little bit. It takes a while to get the right fit, but it's sort of getting where you fit in, learn what you can. No one can take that away from you.
Right.
Okay, I love that response. Okay, Sequoia. All right, I'm going to keep us, because we have a lot of questions, so I'm going to try and keep us to 1 answer per person. All right, Ron, I'm going to throw this one to you. This is from Tom Banks. He is the CEO of the Council for Interior Design Qualification, CIDQ. It's our licensure for the industry. Tom's question is spot on. What can interior design professional and credentialing organizations do to be more supportive of mentorship opportunities, particularly for young Black, Indigenous, and designers of color?
I'm going to say one thing, and this is one of the things that we've been stressing in the DLN and the DLF. Mm-hmm. And in an organization like that, that is predominantly, I'm sure, white, you need to bring in diversity trainers to train those people who can be of help, but may not know how. Not everyone is going to know how to mentor a Black or brown student. They just won't. So I think it needs to start there for certain sort of nuances, mm-hmm. To get that training to be able to mentor a student. I mean, I think that's first. Okay. And then from there, you can open the floodgates and be welcoming and inclusive. But I really think the training, you can't just throw people out there and say, oh, okay, you're going to be a mentor. It's like, I need to know what I'm doing to be a mentor. Now, I can say that I can be a mentor to a Black student because of experience. But I can't say that to, I could say it to a white student now too, because I've been around enough. And, but conversely, on the other side of that coin, so many of, you know, white men and women in corporate world just don't know how to interact. And there's a different way to start out interacting with a Black or brown student.
Okay, Sequoia, were you gonna? You were chomping at the week. You good? You were chomping. Okay, all right, all right. We make sure. All right, so we have another.
I hope that answered that question.
Tom, if that was not a direct response, as the leader, Jim, come back in the Q&A so we can, if that didn't help, give you true guidance. Because I think sometimes we have these things, and I always like to ask, did that get to? We can't solve it here,
Right.
but give us some more feedback, Tom, if that answers your question, and I appreciate it. I'm gonna go to the chat over here. Wilbur Jordan, what do you think is the difference between the students who are accepted into the circle and succeed regardless of mentorship, etc.? What role does talent and background play into the success? Is it wrong to go for low-hanging fruit? Okay, can you all see that question? I read that, I butchered that question, Wilbur. How do people make it? Is it talent? Is it personality? If you don't end up getting a circle, what do you do next?
Well, wait, hold on.
Go ahead.
Interior design, if you graduated from interior design, architecture, design school, you have been trained to think a certain way. That's a transferable skill. So if you don't feel like you feel like you're hitting a wall, and maybe you need to sort of pivot and parlay into something else, you have a skill set. Don't undervalue that skill set. Now, you have to also remember that it's like, yes, there's mentorship. You know, maybe you're having difficulties finding like a true mentor, but also like networking. And Ron mentioned this, Kia mentioned this, like get on LinkedIn, get on Instagram, maybe find people of your own sort of like age bracket or of your own interest. You never know who someone is going to be or who is that you might know. So you have to be open. It is about, yes, it is about personality. It is about sort of being open, right? Being open to allow yourself to be vulnerable. So like it's not, you know, it's not this sort of luck of the draw all the time that you just so happened. Everyone who sort of achieves and excels has worked hard. Everyone has worked hard to be where they are and continues to work hard. But if you're hitting a wall and design, you're not sort of getting into the design and all the various facets. Have you tried a showroom? Have you like tried a textile company? Have you tried a furniture manufacturer? Have you tried like an educational institution that have their own the services? Or even like large pharmaceutical companies, they have their own grounds people who do all of the fit outs for their office spaces. I mean, I really didn't need to understand if you have like really searched all of the options in order to say that like, I'm just not bubbly, just didn't know the right people, like grit.
Well, and I'm going to say this too, and I find this happens, and I think it's generational, that so many kids that come out of, whether they're Black, white, Latin, Asian, a lot of them come out of school and they want to be a superstar. And you have got to pay your dues. I don't care who you are. I had to pay my dues. I wasn't always Ron Woodson from Woodson and Rummerfields.
I'm gonna pause you right there. What does that mean? Pay your dues, because I'm big on what does that mean? Tell us what that means.
Well, to me, that means for me, that meant being in industry, and I didn't calculate how many years it was going to take me. But it took several years for me to build a brand and to build this repertoire of work. That doesn't just happen right out the gate. So when you get right out of school, you don't have anything to show a potential employer, far as a work history. So you've got your schooling, you can show what some of your attributes are. As Sequoia said, maybe you're great at drafting, maybe you're excellent at CAD, maybe you're great at rendering. So you have to use those attributes that you have. But right out of school, let's not get it twisted. You are not going to be a star. That just is not going to happen that way. So when I say pay your dues, you got to work a bit. And if you're tenacious, it will happen for you. And there's going to be some turns in the road. But
okay, and when I hear this, so, and I see a lot of questions here about starting a small business. Should you become an entrepreneur, be a freelancer? And I will say this: running a business is very hard.
It's not for everybody.
It is a skill set that they don't teach you in this design school, any school, right? Unless you go to business school. But I will say this around this idea of paying dues, right? I started my company after only working for a firm for 2 years, formally officially working in industry. And because I was feeling disenfranchised, disenchanted with my craft, right? And I started my business, I was all exuberant, and I got to meet with an editor of a magazine. And I go up to New York on the mega bus, and I'm really excited. I'm in my J. Crew outfit, my hair is all cute and coiffed. And I tell her what I'm about to do. And you know what she says to me? I really think you need to go back and work for a firm for another 5 years before you build your business, which is translation to pay your dues. And when we hear that now also in industry, it means, well, I've got an unpaid internship. I worked for free. I did all the grunt work, but weren't you miserable doing that? No one should be working for free, these unpaid internships. So I want us to just be mindful of reinforcing, and Ron, your explanation helped grounded this dialogue, is paying dues is not saying people need to struggle. Right. It's understanding it does not come easy. It does take time. If you are going down this path of entrepreneurship, make sure it is a reaction to what you want, not to feel like what you're settling for. Sequoia, I'm seeing you're chomping at the bit. Jamie, I want to come to you here in a second because we have another question. Go ahead, Sequoia.
Because I get a little tense, the paying of the dues, because I wouldn't want anyone to deal with some of the shit that I dealt with. I just wouldn't. It does not make me a better designer. And it makes me a little more jaded with the industry. It makes me much more critical of the industry on so many levels. And I get it that, like, you're not going to bounce out of school. You might not necessarily bounce out of school, but hey, you know what? More power to the young people who are using social media, who are designing their friends' dorm rooms, who are doing their aunt's home, they're blowing up on Instagram, and they can graduate and walk out of school and just do like residential interiors, and more power to them, right? Because there's so many systems in the design industry that are broken, that make people of color have a disadvantage of making it, that whatever you do that is going to buck that system and make you succeed, go on.
And I totally agree with you, but I think we have a generation where there's a lot of them, and I don't want to give people this false sense that the minute I get out of school, I'm a celebrity designer. Now, and we see, I don't know if it's because we're in LA, we may see it a little more here, but that's not how it happens.
And Ron, and this is, I think, where the mentorship comes into play. There's a lot of things that we can project on Instagram, but behind the scenes, it's a little bit different. But I think it's also thinking about, you know, is we're not gonna go down that rabbit hole. We're gonna shift to Ashton Maddox's question. Great name, by the way. Is it better to try to work for a firm, become an entrepreneur, do freelance work to attract a mentor? Because it feels like if your portfolio isn't popping, it's harder to get a mentor. Jamie, I'm gonna throw that one to you.
You know, I think that the bottom line here is educating yourself, and to support what Ron was saying is the more information you can absorb, the more it'll benefit you. And so if you're working for a firm and it's not fun or ideal, it's okay. You're just focus on what information you're collecting and like building your rapport as far as what you have to offer in design, because there's so many aspects. I remember working at a commercial design office, and we did corporate branding too. And all I did was parking lots on CAD, just parking stalls, like hundreds of them on CAD. And it's like, what's the point? But overall, they turned into tenant improvement drawings, construction documents. I had to take them to the city, take them to the counter. It was not fun, and it was a grind over and over again. But hey, I know how to put together a perfect set of CDs. Do I do that all the time? No, but it comes in handy all the time. And so I think really taking into stride, and I know everyone gets impatient, so do I, but it's the time you put in is what you'll get out of an opportunity. And so with the question of, should I start a business? Should I start? The best thing you can do is learn from other people's and their mistakes that they've already made. If you're starting a new business, you're going to make all those mistakes again. So I would suggest going and working somewhere that you think you might like, and learning from someone who is very experienced, and learning the best work ethic you can so that you can carry that forward when you do start your own business. And all these tricks of the trade that you would never learn in school, just by running it, being a junior designer in a project, you see so much that you would never know on your own if you just start right out of school. There's no way you would know. In fact, students who work for us and go to start their own thing only after a year or two, I'm like, what's the rush? Like, just enjoy being, informed at this level of design, because once you're out in the free, out in the wild, it is the wild. So get ready. And that's for anybody.
Expanding upon that, there are so many aspects of running a business. You've got to have multiple types of insurance. You better have to protect yourself, because if you don't, you can get into a world of hurt with clients. If you have a client that is going to come after you, you better have insurance to be able to cover that. Then there's payroll. You got to deal with all of that. You got to deal with all this business side as well. And not everybody has both of those acumen. My first degree is in finance. It wasn't in design. So I can go back and forth. Not everybody can do that. And I see so oftentimes where people, and not just young people, decide, oh, I want my own firm. I got this. I can do this. But it's the business side that they fall off on. And that's in any industry. Bake cupcakes.
It is. But yeah. I think it also agrees with you know, it goes hand in hand with and I'm seeing it in the chat, I can't find a job, so I have to create it. And I think that's where this mentorship conversation comes into play. And it's, you know, maybe I never wanted to start a business. It's sure by luck and motherfucking faith that I've made it this far. I mean, in tenacity, like I'm not going to diminish myself. But I think it is hard, but mentors don't want to mentor people without a job. Jessica, I'm going to challenge you on that.
I disagree with that.
Because, and Jessica, you already put my email in the chat. We're going to talk, sis. We're going to talk. Someone said, I know none of my mentees, I'm going to give the example of one of my mentees, Black man, Rodney. It took him 3 years to find a job. And this was after he worked for me, and I had to fire him because he did some things that didn't work out, right? But I stuck with him. I gave him guidance. My job as a mentor is not to just mentor those who've made it. It's those who need guidance to get there. And Anonymous asks 2 questions for the panel that mentor. What you enjoy most about mentoring, and how can a mentee give back to the mentor that pours into them the same way?
So I have a mentee who is like 15 years my senior. Because I want to make sure we like touch on this. And I actually have a couple of mentees who are very talented designers. And I'm going to say designers that did not go to school for interior design. And what brings me great joy is their constant success. That is literally what you can do for your mentor, is like continue to succeed, right? Continue to set your goals and like break through them. There's nothing that's more fulfilling than knowing that you have helped fill that well with whatever information, whatever support, and then you're prosperous. That's all.
Right.
And this is, I think for me, sometimes when my mentees just be like, hey, Kia, how you doing? You good? That's enough. But what I loved about that Anonymous's question is understanding a mentor-mentee relationship, it is reciprocal. It's about not just getting, but giving as well. And that's just not in mentor-mentee relationships, that's in business, that's in relationships, that's in communication skills. So I think it's keeping that mindset. You don't have to be able to solve my my health insurance issues I'm trying to finish with my insurance broker, right, mentee, but you can just check on me. And I think that's enough. Have 9
and one other point, those mentees take that forward and give that information to someone that they could help as well, but become a de facto mentor. Because there's always somebody that's right under you that needs that assistance. And if you have gotten that from any of us on this panel, I think it's incumbent upon you to give that back.
Yeah, I love that. We have 8 minutes and 2 questions that I think we could get to, and then we're gonna I'm gonna let Isaac, great question. Isaac says, what key lessons have you learned in your professional and personal experience that can be jewels for young mentees or students early in their journey to understand diversity and inclusion in the current work climate?
Ooh,
that was like a deep breath from everyone.
Right? That's a good one. A good question.
I can take it. You good? You got it, Ron?
You want to take it, Kia?
So Isaac, this is my my greatest gift is that I am Black, and female with natural hair. The biggest jewel that I can give to you is show up as your whole self. The labels that people identify you with that should be setbacks are your greatest superpower. No one had told me that enough. I leaned into it. Whenever I try to button it up and use the King's English, opportunities fall by the wayside. They don't go my way because I am not trying to be my authentic self. When people say, oh, I suffer from imposter syndrome, because that means you're not trying to be you. And in this diversity and inclusion climate, I've gotten all the awards from all the industry associations and or adjacent as a Black woman who was a C student from Portsmouth, Virginia. It is possible. It is not about being exceptional. It is about leaning into exactly who you are. Did that answer your question, Isaac? If not, everyone's email is in the chat.
But that also goes to having that confidence, and again, nowadays seeing someone who looks like you, to be able to again have that confidence to feel that way.
And
I love it. I love it.
With that,
yes, Jamie, come with us. Come.
It is about your persistence. If you're passionate about something, don't take no for an answer, and just don't let it stop you, because a lot of people will get that. Or I say it takes 3 times actually for someone to even register something that someone says a lot of times. And so if there's something you want, it's not personal. Usually it's just keep going and try a different angle, try email or a letter or a phone call. Don't give up, because I know things are discouraging, but the opportunities are there, and it's just to keep trying. 2 of the people who we hired, it was their persistence, and I didn't even care about their resume because their personality was just so golden. I was like, oh, you're great. I want to work with you. So,
and at the same time too, is you get, and I see this with Jamie, who don't take that smiley, cute little face there as a pushover. You know, when we're sometimes on job sites with these big burly contractors, they think they can run over her. They think they can steamroll over her until she gives them the 411. And then they're like, I mean, I've seen these big old men like back down, like, and at the end of the project, you know, they're bowing down. So it's like, you got to know when to hit it and when not to.
And Jamie,
just round this off by also offering this. And this might be a little old school, but you never know who someone is, and you never know who someone's going to be.
Right.
So treat people with kindness and respect. Kindness doesn't cost a thing. And that can take you a long way, to like have a little compassion, show, like, you know, be a little bit of honey, because you never know. You just never know.
Right.
And I think, Jamie, I love what you said about being persistent. And I think what I hear often is, well, I emailed them once and I don't want to email them again. Is it gonna look bad? I think there's this fear of persistence. And then this is what I tell people. When we talk about, you know, expectation, if you're emailing the leadership of a firm and not knowing all the things behind the scenes at a firm, right? That owner might really be just the only person. So they may not see your first email because they got 100 and it just might get lost. So follow up again and then again. And back in the day with Outlook, you could do read receipts, and I think you could do that with Gmail now, right? Set up read receipts, but don't. Jamie said 3 times. I reach out 7 times in 1 week. And at the end of the day, it always goes to, how bad do you fucking want it? Be persistent. That will translate. But if you are fearful and going after what you want, you're going to be discouraged after one time. It
And
takes
it doesn't stop there. That shows,
yes,
it shows
Yeah.
how you'll be at the office.
yes,
If I had Kia with me on my team calling a vendor 7 times, we're getting the job done. And it's about, you know, and nobody's saying, stop calling me. They're like, oh, thanks for the reminder. Like everyone
yes,
Absolutely.
appreciates
yes.
you're
Yeah.
making it easy for them. So you actually think you're doing them a favor if you keep calling them. So
You are.
And to also to add to that point, everybody that you are going to reach out to is not going to be your mentor.
And boom.
So
Yes.
you got to move on. I mean, I had a situation like that. There was a very high-end designer that I loved his work, and I always thought, oh my God, if I could ever meet such and such, I'm not going to say his name. But what happened was
Look, I like to call people to the carpet, Ron, but that's all right. We're not going to do that today.
Okay, I won't say that it was Juan Montoya, but I was in Paris and I was in a club, and there he was. And I was like, oh my God, that's Juan Montoya. And my partner was like, ooh, you should go talk to him. Well, we started talking, and he said something about, when you get back to New York and get back to LA, reach out. Well, I did. Never heard a thing. Reached out again. Never heard a thing. And that always stuck with me, that I always said I would never, ever, 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 ever do that.
Mm.
That was something that I would never, ever do. If someone took the time, and this was before internet, so I had to handwrite notes, put a stamp on it, put it in the mailbox and send it to them. And I did that several times and called and got nothing. And it was like, and this was somebody that I had pseudo met in a social setting. So if you don't find that first one, that you go,
Oh, yeah.
move on.
Move on. I love it. All right. So we are a minute over, and normally I just like to ask for forgiveness, not permission to keep going. But I want to be respectful of everyone's time. We did not get to all the questions. I know Ron, Jamie, Sequoia, they put their emails in the chat. I would look them up on Instagram. You have their direct emails. And some exciting news, because I don't want this to feel like this is a one and done conversation. In conjunction with the Design Leadership Network Foundation and the Black Interior Designers Network, we are going to start hosting office hours, where twice a month you can sign up to talk to design professionals for these type of one-on-one dialogues. If you are a design professional, and I know there are a few in here, and you would like to be a mentor and sign up to host one-on-one calls, please email me, Kia at the Black Interior Designers Network. That's KIA. Reach out to us. I think because of Zoom, we can email all of our attendees, but we want to keep this dialogue going. We are committed to being change agents. We are, specifically to you, Jessica, we are interested in being the network for all designers. Thank you all so much, Sequoia, Ron, Jamie. Thank you for your candor, your vulnerability, and I am looking forward to doing great things together.
Yeah, and on behalf of the DLF, we're in talks about being able to help even more for the cause. So look out for those updates.
And
Perfect.
also with the Design Leadership Foundation, we have a whole roster of designers nationwide. So we'd like to start to get to know mentees in different regions and connect them with firms in their local areas. And we have a great connection for that. And we'd like to continue that, building that bridge with the Design Leadership Foundation.
Perfect. Love it. Thank
And
you.
I just want to end off, sorry.
Go ahead. Don't be sorry, girl. You know better. Ask
I
for
know,
grace.
right?
Don't say
Don't be sorry
sorry.
with you. I'm so, yeah. For anyone who's interested in looking at sort of mentorship opportunities for younger kids, I just want to offer the advice of like getting involved with your neighborhood, contact your local Boys and Girls Club, contact any of the middle schools, elementary schools, high schools, ask about career days, ask to volunteer and teach an activity to a small group where you maybe have them do a little diorama out of a shoebox or create a vision board of a room of their dreams. There's ways that you can take the time to have volunteerism as part of your own self-care.
Oh,
And to add to that, also, your local museums a lot of times have
Yes.
programs. I went to LACMA Art School every Saturday for several years, and it was really beneficial. So a lot of the museums have that for students and kids. I stuck my nieces and nephews in one, and it was really beneficial for them.
I love it. All right. Thank you all. Thank you for a great dialogue. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Bye, everybody.